now. How do you do, kind folks? Slam and May here, talking to you guys about, talking to you guys about a book. This is our new show.
Percy Jackson!
Well, that's what we're talking about, but that's not the name of our new show. The new show is called Book Club!
That's such a lame name.
Yeah,
I did not help come up with this name. That's such a generic name.
Well, it's a working title, but this is basically a thing where we're going to talk about a chapter per chapter of a book per week until we get through all the chapters.
Tentatively per week, because that may not actually happen.
No, it'll happen. But
that's what he thinks.
Yeah. But
life gets in the way.
What?
Life gets in the way.
Life does get in the way, yes. But not today, kind folks. Not today. For today, we're going to be talking about Percy Jackson. I was going to say Peter Jackson. I keep on screwing
you better
it up.
do better. No pulling a Mr. D over here, okay?
Yeah, Percy Jackson, the Lightning Thief. The first book. May, why don't you, you're more experienced with this
I'm
book.
more experienced with it?
Why don't you tell us... I'm not.
I haven't read it in a while.
Yeah.
But, basically the Greek gods are real.
Well,
and they like to procreate.
Yeah, before we get into the book itself, why don't you
what
tell us about your experience with the book?
Oh, this is like a second, like, Harry Potter to me. Like, it's super good. It was actually a book I could read, and a lot of times my dad would actually read this to me and my sister, or just me, for a bedtime story kind of thing. And he'd do all the fun voices and stuff.
How was it that this was one of the few books that you could read?
Well, it was just easier for me to read the way it was written.
It's because you have...
Because I'm dyslexic AF.
Yeah, and the Percy Jackson is also dyslexic.
Yeah, a lot of the demigods, as they're called, are dyslexic and or have ADHD. So that was something that I could relate to in a book, which was really nice. But it's also written in a way, and like the font that it's printed into stuff is like easier to read. So it was something I could read on my own sometimes, but a lot of times I would also get read to by my dad, and it was super fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that was surprising enough. This was actually published by Disney.
I know. I know.
What?
Probably part of the reason I love it, but...
I don't know how that happened,
Hey,
but...
shout out to Rod for reading me bedtime stories.
Yeah, we all love Rod.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Rod. We all love Rod. Anyway, though. But yeah, this is, it's very interesting. Disney... I know absolutely nothing about this book, or this story. All I know is that there were two movies that
were kind of garbage.
I guess, yeah.
They were good movies.
I've never seen these movies either.
They were good. That's actually why I read the books, is I watched the first movie and loved it, and then read the book and realized the book was so much better. And then I read the rest of the series, and the second movie came out, and I was like, this is absolute garbage. Like, it was so inaccurate from the book. The movie was so inaccurate from the book.
Yeah,
which was irritating.
This movie was made by 20th Century Fox, which is kind of weird because, Disney was publishing it, which is kind of weird. I don't know the whole, history behind it, but...
It was a different time.
Whatever, I guess. But 20th Century Fox is now owned by Disney, so, hey, it all rounds out. They're making a new series. That's why we're doing this. That's why it inspires me. You're not so happy about this new series.
No, I am not happy about this series. I was thrilled. I was excited. I was so ready for it because they were going to cast people accurately.
And then they didn't.
Then I saw the casting of the first 3 people who are the main characters of the story, and they were completely inaccurate. Which is annoying. Like, I'm totally support diversity. I get it. I totally get it's a different time. Like, inclusivity, all of that kind of stuff. But this author, Rick Riordan, that's probably not even how you say his last name. I can't say it.
Yeah, Rick Riordan.
I can't pronounce it. Anyway, Uncle Rick, we love him, but he already writes inclusively in his books. He has characters that are LGBTQ plus.
Yes.
He has all of that in there. He has characters that are supposed to be Hispanic, characters that are supposed to be Black, Asian, like everything. He includes everything already in his series. Like, I don't get changing that. Why do you need to change it? There is already inclusivity in the storyline. It doesn't need to be changed.
Quite.
Also, one of the main characters is supposed to be a ginger, and as someone who has a redheaded mother,
Slash is redhead right now.
Slash is redhead right now, which I'm kind of like in the middle, not really red, but kind of red. Anyway, that was annoying that we like finally got some ginger representation in the books, and now it's like it's not in the movie because they changed his physical appearance.
You know what? There's this thing called hair dye.
They're not gonna do that. The kid's literally black. He's supposed to be a white ginger.
Well,
and Annabeth is supposed to have blonde curly hair and gray eyes, and she's a black girl.
Well,
Nothing against having a black actress, but there are other characters in the books already that are supposed to be black and Native American, everything. Literally, he has everything in there.
Well, we haven't seen the final product yet. The final trailer.
What I have seen, I am disappointed in. I'm sure it'll be a great movie or show when I get into it. But right now I'm disappointed in the cast. And so I'm sure the plot and everything's going to be great. And it's going to be actually like accurate like to the books and everything. And they'll be able to fit a lot more in. So that'll be nice once I get over the casting. But I'm just irritated at the casting. Because I wanted it to be exactly like the book. And that's what I thought we were getting.
Yeah.
But apparently that's not what we're getting.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's a whole nother discussion.
Yes, it is. We are swinging back to the book. And for me, like I was saying, I only knew about the book. That was made by 20th Century Fox. That,
you mean the movie?
Yeah, the movie.
Not the book.
That was made... I think Percy Jackson was played by that... I think it was the guy who was in the Maze Runner. If I remember it correctly? No? Okay.
He's the guy that was in the Wallflowers.
Oh, yeah, the Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Logan
Yeah, I remember him now. But yeah, and I remember Alexandra Daddario, of course, got her start, more or less, in the big spotlight with...
Even though she looks nothing like Annabeth!
Yeah, but Teenager Sam didn't really necessarily care about that. But yeah. Anyway,
don't get me wrong, she's great looking. She was an awesome actress, but
for certain roles.
She looked like she was freaking 16 when she should have been 12.
Yeah.
She also did not have blonde curly hair or gray eyes.
Yeah, but this is not a critique about the film. This is a discussion about the book. And
yes.
To round it out, that's all I knew. I didn't even know this thing was a book series until a few years after I found out there were movies. And I never read them because I thought that they would be crap like the movies. But
you should have known better. The books are always better than the movies.
Yes, but there's this other film called The Girl on the Train or something, like starring Emily Blunt, and it's based on a book. And the movie sucked, and the book apparently also sucked. And there's can we remember 50 Shades of Grey, everybody? I mean, come on now. The movies were terrible. The books were even worse. I mean, come on now.
Did you read the books?
I read the first one.
Did you watch the movies?
I watched the first movie. Because
that's not an accurate representation. Just saying. Moving on. We're not talking about 50 Shades.
Accurate? What?
We're not talking about 50 Shades.
We're not knocking 50 Shades?
We're not talking about 50 Shades.
Oh.
Even though it came out on my birthday, which made me very sad.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, though.
That's what I get for being born on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Lightning Thief.
Chapter 1.
What is Chapter 1 called?
Let's get into this, shall we? So, first thing, These chapters are
I have the book. Do you want me to go get the book?
I mean, yes. And through the magic of editing, it's already here. Bada bing, bada boom.
The book!
The book. What is the first chapter called? I know that's a huge ass sentence.
Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief.
Chapter 1, everybody. We're not reading it, but...
I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher.
Indeed, yeah.
I wish I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher.
Actually,
just kidding. I loved her. She was a sweetheart.
Yeah, I loved my algebra teacher, Johnny G. Great guy. Anyway, though, I'm glad I didn't. Honestly, I'm glad I didn't read this book growing up.
This was a great book growing up.
It was.
I freaking love this. I'm like hell of a nerd about this book.
So I have the Audible.
I know my godly parent and all that shit, so.
I have the Audible.
Audible?
Yeah, I got the Audible
Audible
book. And I gotta tell you, I'm glad I didn't grow up this thing because it is terrible.
It is not terrible. It is so good.
It is.
It's a children's book.
Yeah.
You reading it as a 25-year-old, obviously it's not going to be good. But
Listen,
reading it as a 13-year-old or like a 9 to 13-year-old, like, amazing.
I'll tell you what. I am going to hold off my rating of the book.
You're judging a book on the first chapter.
Yes, I'm not going
Don't
to.
do
I'm
that.
only judging the first chapter, not the whole book. But it's everything that I wish that it wasn't, I guess. Take, for instance, the Hunger Games, right? It starts out.
Why are we talking about Hunger Games?
Because it's an example. Hunger Games, first chapter starts out, like that. Gets it going, you're in the thing. This thing's like, hey, if you don't want to read this,
Here.
please take it down right now.
I'll read it.
Okay.
Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. If you're reading this, it's well, I can't even read it accurately, that's why. If you're reading this because you think you might be one, my advice is, close this book right now.
Oh my gosh. It's the cheesiest thing. It's been done to death. Oh my gosh.
But the relatability of it to kids, especially kids with a vivid imagination that were into Greek mythology because they learned about it in school or whatever, it's an intriguing idea.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it starts out pretty slow.
It does start out slow.
Then it builds to this just random teacher turning into a thing, and then another teacher just coming in swiping and all that stuff, and Percy's just like, what the hell is going on here? And the teacher's like, oh, yo, this person doesn't even exist. And I'm like, huh? What? So, with all that being said, here's the actual premise of this chapter. So we find...
I forgot she was from Georgia.
Yeah, I heard that in the Audible chapter. So
from Georgia.
Percy is this kid in this smarty school.
He's not in a smarty school. He's in a school for troubled youth.
Yeah.
This is his last chance school.
Yeah, it's like I consider that a smarty school, but
it's not a smarty school.
Okay, fine, whatever. Anyway, though,
because he's ADHD and dyslexic, so apparently he's a
Yeah.
hellion, which that has to do more with his parentage than his conditions.
Indeed, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. But anyway, though, he details his life and all that, sets everything up, talks about his algebra teacher from Georgia, and how she, is super strict, which, yeah, I had those teachers too, especially fairly recently. Shout out to my Agatha Christie teacher, who is absolutely garbage.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, anyway. We're not going to mention names. But anyway.
I'm trying to remember what she is.
They went on a field trip. And I remember this from the movie, actually. I remember watching a review about the movie. I remember seeing the scene play out with Pierce Brosnan as the teacher in the wheelchair. So, anyway, Percy's all like, "Yo," he gets sort of in trouble ish because some other kid's like does something stupid.
Nancy Beaufort.
Yeah.
I just read the name. That's the only reason I remember it.
Yeah.
Like, fell into a fountain or something, or knocked something over, and then she blamed it on Percy, saying that he pushed her.
Yeah.
Which
But
was not the case. Which they got into like a little spat, because she's like your typical popular kid, like asshole.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And he's the like
the
ADHD dyslexic nerdy boy who
the nerd
who's also a troublemaker and has a hard time in class. So.
Yeah, and then the algebra
kids are mean.
Yeah.
Kids are mean.
The algebra teacher's like, "Yo, get over here," and he's like, "Oh, whatever." And he's thinking, "Oh, it's just apologize. It's gonna be all right." And then all of a sudden she's like, "Yeah!" And
then she starts yelling about Zeus.
And
he's Kronos
he's all like,
all that.
She's like, "Yeah!" And he's like, "Ah!" And then the other teacher's like, "Yo!" And she's like, "Ah!" And he's
This
like,
is
"Oh."
Terrible explanation.
I mean,
basically, Mrs. Dodds calls him over, and then he's like, "Listen, I'm sorry, blah blah blah. This is what happened." And she's like, "I don't give a shit about that." Obviously, it doesn't say that because it's a kid's book. But she turns into, it's either like a fate or a fury or something like that. I can't remember what it is. But a winged
dragon.
A winged, not dragon, a winged thing. With fangs and nastiness, and starts yelling
AKA
about
dragon.
A lightning bolt, and I think she starts yelling about the lightning bolt here. I can't remember.
Where's the lightning bolt?
That's what happens in the movie,
But then the other teacher's like, "Yo, shing."
But then Mr. Brunner comes in and throws Percy a plastic ballpoint. Well, probably not. I don't know if it's plastic or not, but I assume it's plastic. I don't think it actually is. But anyway, he throws him a ballpoint pen. Just an ordinary ballpoint pen.
Because the pen's mightier than the sword, ladies and gentlemen.
And Percy's like, "Well, what the heck am I supposed to do with this?" And they're like, "Open the pen." And then all of a sudden...
Sword.
It wasn't a pen anymore. It was a bronze sword.
Shing!
And so...
Pen's mightier than the sword.
He slashed...
I will say this. Actually, no, continue. My apologies.
Uh-huh.
I'll say it after.
He slashed at Mrs. Dodds, and she just disappeared into a fine powdery substance, a yellowish powder.
Ash
and was
to
vaporized.
ashes and dust to dust.
And then all of a sudden, Percy's just standing there in a room by himself with a ballpoint pen in his hand. No one else there. Which alludes to the mist, which is a whole nother concept that doesn't get explained until later on.
Indeed.
So we won't talk about that yet.
I will give it this.
And then no one remembers Mrs. Dodds at all, and so he's like flipping out.
Yeah, so...
And that's basically the end of the chapter.
I will give it this. Even though it starts out with the cheesiest, worst thing since Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
It's a relatable children's book. It's
fine.
fine.
I hate it. I hate that. And
if you had read it as a 9-year-old, you probably wouldn't have hated it. You also wouldn't have been hyper-analyzing it.
I mean, Encyclopedia Brown started out like that, and I hated it too. Hated that beginning. But
I don't
anyway.
know what that is, but okay.
It's a children's novel, but anyway. However, I will give it this.
Well, Harry Potter starts out with, "It was a perfectly ordinary day."
Yeah, I hated that at the beginning too, so.
And it's one of the greatest series out there.
Nah. Ish. Ah!
It is one of the greatest series out there.
Yeah, it is. I was kidding. Anyway, though, back to this. I will give it this, though. I like the whole pen thing.
Annie Klossmus. We love Annie Klossmus. You don't know that name yet, though.
No.
You'll learn that soon.
The pen is mightier than the sword, and the pen turns into a sword. It's like, oh, yeah, I see what you did there. I see what you did there, Rick. I see what you did there.
It's also a cursed blade, blah, 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 blah. There's a whole lot more about it.
Yeah, but...
So you'll find out more about that.
Yeah, but I was like, aw, Rick.
But yes, he has lots of subtle jokes that he puts in there too, and lots of connections and not allegories, but like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of stuff, a lot of symbolism that he puts in there, and a lot of really funny jokes that like play off of sometimes like the reader and sometimes like general things going on or history or myth or whatever.
Yes.
It's really intriguing how he does that all.
Yeah, indeed. But I gotta admit, when I was in the car listening to it, and I heard that, I was like, "Aw, Rick, I see what you did there, Rick.
Yeah, very
good going, Rick. I see you. You riding the sword."
We love and hate Uncle Rick because sometimes he does stuff that we're like, "Are you kidding me? Why are you making these
Uncle
poor kids
Rick.
go through this?" Yeah, that's what the fandom calls him.
Oh, that's what the fandom calls him. Uncle Rick.
Uncle Rick the troll.
Uncle Rick the troll.
He's a troll.
Well, now we know what Rick is named Uncle Rick. I mean, he kind of is an uncle right now. He's just like, "Oh, Uncle Rick, I see you there, man. Yeah, there you go, man." Anyway, though, I'd say it's a good...
I think the first chapter, it's a little slow.
Yeah.
But it leaves you wanting more.
Especially after that pen is mightier than the sword thing. I was like,
and then no one remembers Mrs. Dodds and what just happened. You're like, wait, is this all in his head? Is this actually happening? What's going on? You want to know more.
Yeah, I mean, for kids, I would say that it works, but as a 25-year-old man...
Well, it's not marketed towards you.
No, but I still read The Hunger Games, even though I didn't read it until I was 15 years old.
Well, that's still marketed towards 15-year-olds.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, though. I know where this is going, and it's like, oh, this is gonna happen later in the next chapter or whatever. But anyway, though, I gotta say, pretty good, I would say. Yeah, I'm not gonna judge the...
Definitely don't judge the whole book on the first chapter, because there is way more.
I'm not going to judge the entire book by the first paragraph. Because that paragraph was awful. I'm sorry.
Put that to the side. But especially when you get to camp, there's a lot more that happens and a lot more interactions that are really cool.
Does it get campy, though?
Sort of. There's a campfire. There's
a campy camp.
I mean...
Yeah. No, I mean, like, you know what campy means?
No.
So, when things are played off for jokes, a lot of jokes, and so corny and stupid, that's camp.
Sometimes. Definitely sometimes it's in there. For sure.
Alright then. Well, anyway. So you found this pretty relatable growing up as a kid?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like that, especially that first chapter or whatever?
Well, not necessarily the first chapter.
No. You didn't have your own little girl who fell into a fountain and then blamed it on you or something?
No, not necessarily, but the idea of feeling isolated in yourself.
Yeah.
And not the popular kid, not the cool kid, you know, like just being a normal kid, but then also having other issues. Like, I don't know, it doesn't specifically talk about his ADHD in the first chapter, does it?
Yeah, it does.
It does, okay. So that part was definitely relatable for me.
Yeah.
Which was cool because I'd never seen that before in a book or in any sort of... Social media wasn't a thing, but like any movie, any book, nothing. I'd never seen any representation of that. Which is really, like...
Now you have.
Yeah, that made me feel good to see something like that.
Yeah,
so.
quite. Boneless. And with that, that's the end of the first chapter, kind folks. And we made it to 25 minutes.
Impressive.
Gosh.
We kind of got off on a tangent, though, a couple times.
I mean,
so.
we gotta bring you some examples, you know.
That'll happen, though.
Yeah, it happens. You know, just keep things spicy, keep things flowing, you know, just doing all that type of stuff. Yeah, spicy, yeah. Keep things entertaining, you know, whatever. Anyway, though, what you guys think of the first chapter? Get ready for the second chapter next week.
Maybe.
And with that, kind folks, first chapter, what you guys think of it? Comment, let us know, subscribe down below, ring that bell. Next chapter, hopefully coming soon to theaters. I'm Slam,
I may.
and we'll talk to you later, kind folks. Bada bing, bada boom.
Goodbye.